what you do. You're complaining for 40 miles. You drive 300 miles to get paid with a hamburger and a cup. You know what I mean?
No, I absolutely do. I don't know if you experienced this, when you have managed before, but I can say this, that in working as a manager, for me personally, being, the representative for the most dominating faction in professional wrestling today, Darkness Worldwide, when I jump into a vehicle and I am traveling to towns, trying to expand the reach of Darkness Worldwide and my ability to work in different areas of the country and globally, hopefully, as we get past our current situation, but trying to find talent that is willing to travel with you, that is willing to put in the miles. There's a small percentage that will, but to your point, there is a lot that won't. I mean, they don't want to drive any further down the street from where they live, and that to me is, it's sad, and it's an indication of, no matter what people say, people can talk and tell me all day long that they want to be a star, that they want to be on national and international television, that they want to work with the best the industry has to offer. But when they are reluctant to jump in the car and make a drive that you can make in a half a day, and you're balking at that, how in the world are you going to become a national or international act when you aren't even willing to commit to dropping $10 or $20 on gas and devoting your time to go work events? I mean, I'm sure the same thing with when you're on the road with Steffi for the Sentimentalists. It's like you guys are all over the place. You're traveling, and there's no fear of that. You can't fear the road.
Let me cut you off on that one. We fly now.
Well, awesome.
But the client will pay that. That's a different thing. But that's not always true. We had to drive down to Philadelphia not too long ago. I think that was in February. Drive down to New York City. Drive down to Kentucky. It's not like we're not driving. We drive all the time. But if it's a faraway gig, obviously we're not going to drive to LA or drive to Calgary, but we fly. We'll even fly to Montreal if the client's going to pay. But when it's in the rudimentary stages, when people are trying to get their reach, I mean, there's a lineup going down the block with people ready to take that spot and are willing to do it. I just never got my head wrapped around that idea of performers who can't. It's probably different reasons. I mean, some people, I don't know, they have a day job, let's say, or whatever, or maybe they don't drive, or who knows, and then that's why they stay so local.
I think that's sometimes the case. I think that's sometimes the case, but I also think that, especially in entertainment and pro wrestling, the vile, nasty individual that I will call self-sabotage rears its ugly head more often than not, and I think a lot of times, no matter how well-intentioned people are, they listen to the negative voices inside their own head, and they sabotage themselves. And I've been a victim to that in the past. And I'm not going to say I'm exempt from that. I don't know if anybody is, but there gets to be that point in time where if you really want to be successful, like for me, the light bulb moment for me personally was the spring of 2018. Where I just had the full realization that if I'm going to do this, then I'm really going to do this, and I'm going to be successful at this, and there's no maybe I should do it, let me think about it. That was the light bulb moment where I knew I'm doing this and I'm going all in on this. And obviously that's something that you've done now for quite some time. Before we continue our conversation, Mysterion, because I want to make sure that we showcase you in the best way possible here on Radio Dark. Obviously, we're talking about traveling and being on the road with everything that's going on right now. Obviously, we're all affected by this. Our ability to go out and work live events is pretty much completely nullified. So in the absence of hitting the road and making the towns, you are doing a special Mysterion live event on Zoom on Saturday, May 23rd. If you would, talk about that event and talk about how people can attend that awesome event.
Sure, absolutely. It's funny that you mentioned the adaptability and people going and really, if you can't handle the half an hour drive, how are you going to handle the impact of a busy schedule when you're on top? When I do what I do live. Obviously, I need an audience, and now here I am going. I have two options. I can sit and worry and not have anything, or I can adapt. And I'm noticing a lot of magicians specifically, because I don't really know what a wrestler can do right now. But in the magic industry, a lot of us are going on Zoom, and what I've decided to do on a back-end industry level is I'm actually creating a trick that's being sold to the magic community. And so it's an opportunity for me to sell a product to other magicians to use in their show, to better their show, and then, of course, earn me an income while we're still all locked inside. And people are still buying magic. So you got to kind of adapt. You got to find your strong points and know what you can do, and then execute those things. Don't, like you said, don't question it. Just do it.
Yes.
And people, if you build it, they will come. Build it. You're going to have buyers. You're going to have people viewing. I posted there's only 100 tickets allowed to be, by the way, for this thing on Saturday. It's not an infinite amount of people who can partake. There's only 100 tickets available for people to partake, because that's what the platform Zoom allows. And I put it out yesterday, we've already sold a quarter of the tickets. So, wow, I haven't even started promoting. People are really hungry for entertainment. So next Saturday, at 8 o'clock my time, so that's Eastern Standard, I think.
So that would be 8 p.m. Eastern. That would be, what is that, 5 p.m. Pacific?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe. Whatever we are. But 8 o'clock normal time for me. I'm going to be doing an hour-long interactive mind reading show, and people wonder how that works over the internet. And it's easy. You come on, you go into the waiting room, and then basically we can see your icon, and if you wave your hand up in the air, we'll just drag you in, and then I can communicate to you in real time, and then people follow along. And I did one about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I had the woman in tears because I was talking to her about her past, her grandmother and all this sort of thing, and then she's watching me, and I'm holding chalkboards, and I show them blank, and then I communicate with the grandmother, and I say her name, and then I flip the chalkboards over, and the name has appeared on one of the chalkboards.
Wow.
And you could hear this woman sobbing. One of the other women I had on was begging me. I was telling her that there was going to be an apparition, and all. She goes, "No, please, Mysterion, don't. Oh, come on, please. Why did I even call in?" And so it does work over the internet, and it's something where I've gone, wow. And I think this is because I used to do radio mentalism too. Like, there was a guy called Dunninger way back, like 80 years ago. He used to do radio shows, and I learned a lot from that too. So it can translate into Zoom, on a platform like Zoom, quite easily. So this Saturday, I'm not only going to be doing mind reading with the viewers, but I live in a house that's filled with human remains. I have 28 human heads in different types of situations. Some of them are ancestral skulls from Papua New Guinea. I have elongated skulls from Peru. I have medical skulls, ones that have been operated on, and then I have all sorts of stuff like two-headed animals in jars, six-legged pigs, this kind of thing, like Carney type stuff. And I'm going to be doing a tour of my house as well, and showing about some of my favorite pieces. I have the Chapman letter, the Ben Chapman. That's what's his name, Mark Chapman. The assassination of John Lennon. I have the original letter, the Capture in the Rye letter.
That's actually how I found you. That's actually how I found you, Mysterion, is that I happened to be watching whatever oddities I come across on YouTube, and I happened to come across a video that was focusing on people and their unique collections, and that's what turned me on to exactly who you are, and all the interesting things that are in your home. And then in that particular video when you mentioned that you were a wrestling manager? Or just at that point I knew that, okay, that this cat is just too interesting and entertaining for me not to reach out and see if he'd be willing to come on the program. So I definitely want to talk more about the collection, and that's awesome that you're actually doing a tour of the house, because just from a glance from the video I saw on YouTube, like, you've got some... Probably the most interesting museum I've ever been in personally was Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum in Las Vegas, but outside of that, your personal home is... to say interesting would be a tremendous understatement. But in regards to the event, the Eventbrite event, if the folks listening would like to come and take part in this event, and this really does sound amazing, how do they reserve their spot? You said there's only 100 tickets being sold.
Eventbrite. If they go on Eventbrite and type the name Mysterion and then just write the word Zoom. Right, Mysterion Zoom, live on Zoom, or something like that. Right. It's called Mysterion live on Zoom, and then you just find that on Eventbrite, and then what happens is you buy your it's $10 Canadian. So if it's an American listener, it's like $7, nothing. You buy your ticket, and what happens is your name will then be put on my mailing list, and then on Friday I will then mass email out the code, the access code for the Zoom meeting, which happens the following day, and then we can, make sure everyone got it, and then you just log on and put in your code, and then the rest is just sitting back and enjoying the show.
That's awesome. I mean, that for being able to adapt to situations, I have some friends that are musicians. I had a good friend of mine, Heath Haynes, who is a musician in Nashville. Had him on the program a few weeks back, and he talked about the modifications and changes he's had to make, and now he's doing live streams on social media where people are offering tips and helping him to get through, a pretty difficult time for a lot of us. But it's awesome to see somebody, being creative and thinking outside of the box to present themselves. On top of being such an interesting act, obviously Mysterion, again, tying everything back to wrestling, you've been, from my guesstimation, a lifelong fan. Within your house, some of the things that you collect are, you've got an entire room devoted just to, wrestling figures. Giving kind of a glimpse.
And autographs and that, yeah.
Exactly. So you've been a lifelong fan. Kind of talk about, when I see you, especially when I pulled up footage of you in your managerial role, images of the Grand Wizard came to mind. I don't know if he was an influence, but...
You know how that came about?
No, go ahead.
I was doing a spot. I'll tell you, I was doing a spot on a wrestling show on Halloween many years ago. This was probably, I don't even know, but 15, 18 years ago. I was doing a spot on a wrestling show where I had a Ouija board, and I was, talking to dead wrestlers and getting advice on how to win over an opponent or
That's
whatever.
Fantastic,
and I got the Grand Wizard on the Ouija board, and I went into the voice, and this whole thing. And then when I came out later, I came out in his attire, and I'm going, there's a fine line between the living and the dead, and these things manifested, and now I have his clothes, and then I became possessed by him, and then I was him. I was like the the living embodiment of Ernie Roth, is back, but he's possessed Mysterion. That was the original idea.
Wow.
And it was just so over the heads of everyone. I mean, half the people there didn't even know who he was. And then it just kind of just became the outfit I wore. So it was more like the swami, swarthy fucking guy like he was, and I still kind of am. It just sort of naturally made sense to wear that similar attire. It's much so that people were even calling me the Wizard's son. Meanwhile, the guy was gay. He never had a kid. And, there was all sorts of different... I love... and there's another example of a guy who crosses over to different genres. He was a radio DJ.
Really?
And he just